impressed me the most, I don't know if it's the top lessons learned, I think what's impressed me the most was, I'm on the call every morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I want to talk to Sergeant Ciota. I want you to be able to kind of talk about what you're seeing every day. But what was impressive is every time I'm on the call, whether it's Oregon State Police, Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, or it's Sergeant Ciota from the Portland Police Bureau, talking about the number of arrests that they made the day before, and the amount of effort that went into it. And let's make it very clear. Our intent is to arrest the drug distribution, the dealers out there on the streets. The users out on the streets, we want them to be able to get access to treatment beds, and if they're houseless, to get access to temporary alternative shelter sites. So I've been impressed with the number of arrests made, the amount of activity that Portland Police Bureau, the OSP, and the Oregon State Police and Multnomah County Sheriff's Office have been conducting patrols and foot patrols and bike patrols every day. I was extremely impressed with Portland Fire and Rescue, who just recently launched their overdose response team. There's days on there when several people's lives are saved. Almost every day that I'm talking to them, almost every day on the call, when we talk about what happened in the operational area yesterday, they will talk about helping an individual because we brought all the outreach workers to the one area. That's the whole idea behind the coordination. Really, where's things happening today? At 10th and Jefferson, 10th and Columbia, we will saturate the area with outreach workers. And almost a day does not go by that individuals were contacted by an outreach team, and they were either taken to the treatment center or taken to a temporary alternative shelter site, which, if you think about that, that's where they get stabilized and then onto housing. So the whole attempt is to see people in the street, identify the addiction need, get them to treatment, get them to a shelter site, and ultimately into housing. This pathway is being built. And I think that's been the most impressive thing for me over the last 30 days, is to actually witness it happening. In the morning, I can hear the flow happening. I think that's important to know.
Just to clarify the initial question about what's changed in the last 30 days versus some of these programs that were already happening, are you saying that saturation effort is new, the arrests are new, or, I mean, it seems like some of that was happening before.
Some of it was happening before. It wasn't coordinated, and I think the saturation effort is a key point. We talk about, it's not all over Portland that we see these very dense, impacted areas. It is typically 2 or 3 locations within the operational area that are very heavily impacted. And so our intent is to talk about where those are at, what is the mission today, where will we be active, and to coordinate all those resources into that high impact area. And it makes a difference. Sergeant, is there anything that you wanted to say about the daily impacts? I can give up my chair if you'd like to step up.
I think that to answer the question is what's changed is that everybody's talking. It was not at all uncommon that my team would be working with OSP and we'd be working with MHAO on an outreach day. And nobody would understand that the Portland Police Bureau and the bike squad, I guess that the bias would be that the police were out there to just arrest people, and that was a misunderstanding. That our goal is to approach the fentanyl crisis from 2 prongs. We understand that the fentanyl crisis has a significant public health prong to it, and we were addressing it from such that we needed, and we understood that we needed to get resources to those using at the moment. And so in December, we reached out and we got outreach workers to come to us when we were out with a user at the moment, rather than having them make a phone call and hope they made a phone call. And that effort was going on in December, but nobody really knew that was going on. And then on top of that, every once in a while, we would then go make the arrests. But until this 90-day crisis emergency started, nobody really knew that was going on. The bias was the police are out arresting, MHAO was doing outreach, the BHRC was doing housing. It wasn't until this started happening that those biases were taken down, that we were actually all working together, that Portland Police, the bike squad, and neighborhood response team was working with the street services coordination team. We were working with OSP. We were working with chat, and that we were all working together. So now we are able to communicate every day about, okay, we are doing the outreach today. This is where we're going to be. Okay, today is going to be high visibility, and this is where we're working today. And so it's the communication piece that has changed significantly, and now people understand what everybody's roles are on a daily basis. Does that answer your question better?
Going off that, that's great to hear that you guys see kind of mechanic changes going on behind the scenes. But we talk to people in the community every day, and people are hungry for that visible change. I was out to dinner about 2 weeks ago, and I witnessed an overdose and a death about 50 feet from my dinner table. People there were very upset, telling me that this keeps happening in our neighborhood. So they're not seeing this change. What is the caliber of change that will be visible to the public where finally the community can say something is moving in the right direction?
I echo that, and I have been a Portland police officer for almost 27 years, and I have gone through the crack addiction. I've gone through the meth addiction. I've gone through the heroin addiction, and this is fentanyl is like something I have never seen. And I will echo everything that has been up here. It's crazy, and I have seen more people die in overdoses and literally in my hands more than any time in my career. And I've brought more people back to life with Narcan than any time in my career, which is also kind of satisfying too. Like, hey, I brought some back to life today. That was crazy. I echo that. But I would also like to say that my email was full today with people thanking me for changing their neighborhood today. Like, the efforts there are a lot of efforts from a lot of men and women in the city to make changes. And I think that's a message that's being missed. I do get emails like, hey, this parking lot was blown up last night. Please do something about it. And that's not missed. But I also get messages like, hey, for 2 months, this parking lot was blown up, and today I actually saw a difference. So I get it. I do understand and hear what you're saying. This is a very complex problem that it's a huge international problem. I mean, it's complex. It starts in China. It goes to Mexico. There's an influence from Honduras. And we're trying to change it in a small little town of Portland. It's created by a complex set of problems, and it's not going to be changed overnight. I know that's what people want. I get that. I want to change it overnight too. At least there's an effort, and it's a strong effort. And there's a lot of men and women in the city that are putting forth a really strong effort with a lot of passion for people and a lot of passion for people who don't want people down on the streets. They want to put them in housing. They want to put them in detox. They want to put them in sobering. And we're doing the best we can. There's a lot of effort put into it, and at least they're communicating now.
I want to go back to the drug hotspots. You say you target certain areas. Are there talks, are there plans in the works to try and get ahead of that curve and prevent future hotspots from forming?
My goal all along has to been leapfrogging the problem. I want our team, and along with OSP in Multnomah County, to be at the next spot before they get there, and that has always been our goal. Whether they see us before they get there and go someplace else, whether I'm guessing wrong, I don't know what the problem is, or maybe we are there. I don't know. We'd love to be there and just kind of accept them with open arms. We know that we make a difference because our intel tells us we are. And I can't share that intel with you because otherwise it wouldn't be intel. But we're working on things, and we've got a lot of partners, and our partners grow every day. And so until we can cure fentanyl, I don't know how we can do that.
Is there more support that you would like, something specific from this incident command team? I mean, you mentioned the outreach workers working with you guys, but that's happened less than 10 times since you launched the program. So is there something else that you would need?
But that's 10 more times than we had 6 months ago.
Sure, but I mean, look at the problem. You guys
Yeah.
have been echoing all day saying it's a huge crisis, it's difficult, and you've gone out 10 times.
It's still 10 more times than we had 6 months ago. I mean, we're moving forward, and as long as we can continue to move forward, we're not moving backwards, and we're helping more and more people every day. I mean, the very first person we helped is still sober today, and so we're continuing. And every time we go out, we build rapport, we build trust, and more people are trusting us and going into sober and going into detox, going into housing. Yes, it's a very complex problem, but the more we go out, the more rapport we build, the more people trust us. And it's not just us. It's not just the police. It's the outreach workers. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And so,
I think just to echo some of that, the complexity of this is something we haven't seen. Personally, I've been down in this area doing outreach work, social work for close to 15 years. And I've administered naloxone more times in the last 12 months than I have in the 14 complex issue. There's not an overnight fix for it. I think what Officer Ciotta was talking about building that rapport is, we've had individual substance users flag down the police and say, hey, you have those outreach workers with us, can we get help, right? And so we're changing the narrative one person at a time, which is how we have to start to tackle the big issue.
And what would you need to make outreach more effective or more widespread throughout the city or the state?
I mean, I think it's a scalable model, right? And I think the important part of what we're doing right now is we're building at a pace where we can coordinate on a regular basis. We can utilize services that are available on a regular basis. We have to do it in a coordinated effort. If we blow up too fast, we're going to have a problem with losing the trust of the individuals we're helping.
And back to the international problem, I know this is a question for the command team, but clearly Oregon's resources and borders only go so far. This is coming in from international borders. Are there conversations with the federal government about Oregon's efforts here to tackle this crisis, and what are those conversations?
Yeah, and I'll start off on that one. Yes, it's obviously international issue, and we have had conversations with our federal partners. One of our representatives here is going to be able to speak to that a little bit better. I'm going to have Major Fitzgerald talk about that, but with the trafficking that's going up and down on I-5, with the recent extremely large seizure that you saw up here in the Portland area, 370 gallons of heroin, liquid heroin, which is very unique. And then now that we have, it's a system of systems, and so Major, if you could talk about OSP and the collaborative effort between OSP and the federal government or federal partners.
Yeah, so obviously like you've heard from our partners, and I don't want to restate what's already been said, but the Oregon State Police does recognize obviously that this is beyond a local and a state issue that we have going on with the fentanyl crisis. So we are working with our federal partners. We do have some detectives attached to certain task forces around the state. We've also deployed additional detectives to some of our local task forces as well. And in our operations that we're doing where we're helping and working with the Portland Police Bureau, we do get federal funding and grant dollars from the high-intensity drug trafficking for those, so that does help with that. So they are helping with our operations there as well. In addition to that, we're talking about some of the pipeline stuff with the fentanyl. We have been working with our high visibility enforcement team to do targeted and specific operations on the I-5 and I-84 and different interstates within the state, so we can try to disrupt some of those drug trafficking organizations and the flow of that drug.
So I'd like to go back to the bottle drop closure. Why now? Why are you doing it? Why these two locations? What's the mechanism?
Well, it's when we talk in the morning about where the hot spots are located, where the activity is happening around the operational area, it has been a very difficult spot around Southwest Jefferson and 10th and Columbia. And there's just been a lot of fentanyl activity there. So there's a couple of reasons around those two locations. One is it's a 30-day, so it's only a 30-day assessment. It's a trial. We want to see what's going to happen. We need to do some assessment here, whether it's going to work or not. But we do think the suspension may help stop some of the activity right there in that location. And there are other bottle drop opportunities for other people outside of that location. That specific area is a focus area of ours. That's one thing. And then I think people know fentanyl is extremely inexpensive. Dr. Vines isn't here with us. She can talk about that a little bit, but it's extremely inexpensive. It only takes a handful of bottle or cans to be traded in for cash to be cycled right back to purchase fentanyl and to keep the cycle going. And so again, this is just a 30-day suspension. It is just a trial. We will need to assess it every day if it's having positive impacts. If there are negative impacts, we will look at that as well. So again, it's just a 30-day, 2 locations in Southwest Portland.
You know, I'm all for officials getting their ideas from the front page of the newspaper, but what is, I mean, we talk about hotspots. Isn't this just going to move this from one bottle drop to the next? I mean, it seems like we've seen how the hotspots have moved from Southwest Washington, from the pit, right? There's all these different places we go in and we clean it up, and then it just goes somewhere else.
The mayor, the chair, and the governor were all very clear with us in the Unified Command team that the intent is not to simply move the problem around the corner in Portland. The chair was very specific about not moving this problem into East County, and the governor was very specific about not moving this to just another city. There is an intent for us to figure out the problem here and to move drug users and distributors to get arrested and go to jail, and users who are addicted that need treatment services to get those treatment services and move them into those treatment services or into a temporary shelter site. We are starting to do both more rapidly. That is the intent, and we will augment where we can to continue that. Will it continue to move? I think Sergeant Scioto's been here for months and months and months. He's very aware that this will naturally move around. When we show up, it will move. We know, so I'm not telling you it won't. I'm sure it will. And part of Sergeant Scioto's job is to track that and analyze it, and that's why we meet every morning. Where's the mission? Where do you think you'll be today? Where can we put all of the resources? That's the difference here. And John has a comment too. Real quick.
Yeah, real quick. Just we know that this population is moving. We know there's different hotspots. One of the advantages of being able to target a specific spot, especially from a peer lens and an outreach lens, is we're able to see several people that we've built relationships with already, meet them at a different spot and a different spot. So if it is the same people, we have those existing relationships, and we've had more luck getting people into services by targeting specific spots, building relationships with individuals, regardless of the geographical location. Because of the targeting, we've been able to have ongoing relationships that have expedited people getting into services.
I have 3 reporters that I haven't heard from. I have Jeremiah, who I'd like to hear from next.
So short. You go, and I want to thank you both for answering my questions.
Of course.
Just to put a point on it, what is the mechanism? Is it the governor who signs this? How do you close a bottle drop? I mean, who makes that decision?
That does go through the governor and the OLCC, the Oregon Bottle Drop. That is how that is processed. The one thing that I would say, that's as far as a matter of process, is that we also are taking into consideration equity in all of these. And at the state, the county, and the city level, we have equity representatives right inside of the incident management team, and they are present at all of our key meetings with the Unified Command and with the overall incident management team. So thank you.
Can the disruptions from a public health perspective actually have really adverse impact on people who, people going to jail is twice as likely to come out of jail for overdose. How do you, and overdoses are expected to go up kind of regardless of what people are doing, of which is correct, what aren't going to do. How do you approach this from a public health perspective? There's a lot of talk about refugees and stuff, but how do you deal with the fact that these overdoses are going to
Yeah, thank you for that really thoughtful question. I think you're right that coming out of a correctional setting is itself a risk factor for overdose. Corrections health functions under the purview of the county, so we're in close contact with them, and we're monitoring pretty carefully for unintended consequences, because as you can see, if you squeeze one part of this balloon, it comes out somewhere else. So we're well aware of that piece and of that particular risk factor. I think you're right. It's going to be hard to tie, for example, overdose deaths to the actions that are taking place in this 90 days, although that will be part of our reporting and our public-facing information for sure. I think what we're hoping to do is again, set the table, reorganize the players, get some good pieces in place in this particular operational area that can be scaled up. I would love that, we're sitting here a year from now looking at the data, looking at what we've sustained and actually seeing a real impact. But you're right, in the short term, it's going to be very hard to establish cause and effect on things as important as fatal overdose.
Those are also in jail. How does that work out?
You're right, what happens outside of jails happens inside of jails. I don't know that we have a representative from the jails here to speak to that, but we are definitely aware of that.
We have time for about one more question, and I'm going to preface that with this isn't going to be your last opportunity to hear from these folks. We'll have regular briefings moving forward, but can I have one more question? Maybe from a reporter I haven't heard from, Anna or Elizabeth.
I guess.
You don't have to. I'm sure Blair wants another.
Well, I understand, like,
We all.
90 days coming with a lot of resources, a lot of manpower for building up these systems and communication, but what happens when that 90 days ends and you don't have that manpower? How are you getting the system set up, have enough time and resources for people to continue doing that coordination?
I can start, and maybe my colleagues can jump in. One of our directives. So first of all, you're absolutely right. It's always intensive, staffing-wise, to stand up an incident management team. We do it all the time for wildland fires, large-scale ones for wildland fires, and this one is on par. It's almost 50 people that have, like I said, left their day jobs to be in an emergency operations center together every day, working on the project together. That can't go on forever. It's unsustainable. And so one of our challenges and one of our directives, and it is a challenge, and we will meet this challenge, is to develop a system or a process so after the 90 days is over, we have a product that can carry on without an incident management team supporting at that level. Sean, do you want to kind of talk about your experience and what your thought is on how we might navigate that?
Yeah, I think I'll go back to that lessons learned in the after-action report and the exportable results is that as we move forward, we want that to not be a drop-off. It is at the 91st day is as critically important under this emergency as the first day when it was announced by the governor, the chair, and the mayor. We understand and we are laser focused on the critical mission here, which is, as Mike has pointed out, as you've heard from the people who are out there doing the work on the ground in direct contact. It's life-saving work and it's vitally important. And the revitalization, the work that we're doing is something that needs to endure past that, and we keep that in mind in everything that we are doing right now. And as I said, short, mid, and long term, and we are completely focused on that moving forward. Dr. Vines, would you like to?
Yeah, I mean, just in a really pragmatic way, I think our charge is to set up systems, ways of working together across our governmental organizations, ways of sharing data. I think is actually really important too, that we can set up and then that will endure as this work